She is the founder of Oryx Desert Salt.
Because had my relationship been safe and secure, and then Oryx Desert Salt wouldn't be in 23 countries and on all the supermarket shelves in South Africa. Building a brand and building a business is like pushing a peanut up a hill with your nose. Salt is sacred. It's in our tears, it's in our blood, it's in our sweat. The vision board, dream board. And when I asked her about it, she said, no one has ever given me permission to dream my life differently.
Oh, my word.
And, once you've doom scrolled on Instagram and got lost down a Facebook rabbit hole for a while, like, do you feel energized? Do you feel full? Do you feel satisfied? I don't think so.
I know that there are many people listening, like founders going, how in the world do you manage that? Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Through the Fog, the podcast where I try to figure out how people found their way in life by having conversations with people doing interesting and incredible work. And this episode is with Samantha Skyring, who is the CEO and founder of a very well-known South African brand that you see on the tables of just about every restaurant worth its salt. And yeah, that's right, a little pun. She is the founder of Oryx Desert Salt. And this is a special episode to get behind the scenes of Oryx and what inspired her to go into salt and all the different aspects of it and how it's good for you in different ways that you don't expect, and how we actually blamed the wrong white crystal. We blamed sugar. We blamed salt for all the mistakes and faults in the world, and we should have blamed sugar. And we talk about the spiritual aspect behind salt and business and teams and all these interesting stories. I loved making this. Samantha is an incredible human being and has since become a really close friend and a collaborator and co-conspirator. So I know that you will enjoy her and this episode. And then, as always, give us a follow and a like, and please leave a comment or send me a comment on what you like about the show, who you would like to see on the show, and then we can see if we can make it happen. Enjoy. Hi, Samantha. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Through the Fog podcast. And we've been trying to meet each other in person for a while, and it seems like we're circling each other all the time. So I'm really stoked to have you on. I am such a freaking fan of what you guys do. And I wanted to show you something. I think I mentioned it, but this is my little man bag that I carry around with me. And inside it, my kids laugh at me because they say I'm pedantic, but I carry a little Oryx salt. Right? Because I was yesterday, I was in Hermanus at a steakhouse, and I'm I'm not having this salt. I don't know where this is from. I'm having Samantha salt. And my kids were all okay. And they all use it as well. So now it's almost empty and I need to refill it or get another one or something. But anyway, so you are the person behind Oryx Salt. But tell us about, and everybody that's listening, about you. Yeah. Who are you? Where do you find yourself today?
Okay, sure, big question. So I've had what can I say, an interesting life, very diverse. I traveled for a bit after school. My dad, so I guess my entrepreneurial journey started when I was 30, when my dad had a financial crash. So thank you, Dad, because if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am today. I'd be possibly working for a corporate. So 13, I was doing paper rounds and waking up at 4 a.m. in Pick and Pay Bakery. And then my dad managed to turn things around, and he ended up buying a business for me when I was 19, which was a bit of a shock because he only told me once he had bought it. And which was a bit bizarre. It was interior refurbishing of private and corporate jets. So I did that for 3 years. But in the meantime, I got married at 21. And we went on a beautiful kayaking journey up to Lake Malawi, and we discovered Mumba Island. And we were like, well, sorry, Dad, I'm off to the beach. I'm off to my island. And ended up doing that for a year. Unfortunately, that was my first experience of partnerships that don't work. And I was too young, too naive, actually didn't have enough sort of self-confidence actually to to say to them, well, excuse me, but stuff you, we're not leaving. And to be able to dig my heels in, and I didn't then have the conviction. But losing my island gave me the conviction years later. So I love life in retrospect. I love sort of really going out and, looking at the soul's journey. And then I ended up doing production management, and I realized I'm definitely not wasting my time on this. It's very fickle. And then I ended up in Orange Farm Township, and I did volunteer work. And then I had a vision, and literally it was a night of lucid dreaming. And it was around how do we really create emotional, spiritual upliftment in communities, and not the corporate, old school white elephant community center that doesn't work. And I started a project called 20,000 Drums, and it was a vision of having 20,000 kids in a stadium. But the government let me down, but we ended up workshopping 30,000 children across the country. And then I met a colleague who he actually, bless his soul, thank you, Roland, had a mission to find a food that had a spiritual quality, and ended up sitting next to the daughter of the salt can owner at a dinner party. But he wanted to, he knew the quality and how special the salt is from the Kalahari, but for some reason he didn't want to put in the hard work. And 14 and a half years, nearly 15 years later, it's been a lot of hard work and a lot of hours to build a brand. And so he was selling it to bulk to Germany. And so I started packing grinders on my dining room table. So there's a few little pieces. The story changed a little bit just for for ease. I did actually support the father of my child in Denmark, exporting the product, and then I had to leave quite quickly with a note on the table in order to be safe. And so I came back, and that was actually another blessing, because had my relationship been safe and secure, and then Oryx Desert Salt wouldn't be in 23 countries and on all the supermarket shelves in South Africa. So as a new single mum, I had a 3-year-old, that gave me the impetus to just, I think becoming a mum is one thing, becoming a single mum just really gave me the drive to make it work. And I created the product, and it just really needed my energy and my passion in. And here we are 15 years later.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, so that's sure, that's a whirlwind. That took like so many notes, right? That's like a whirlwind. Such a massive story, and so much to dive into. I wanted to ask 13-year-old, right? Paper rounds. What did that take me through that? What did you want to be when you grew up? And then you started doing paper rounds. And then what was that like? Were you angry at your dad, or were you like, I want to get up and help, or?
So two things. I think initially I'd read a bunch of very beautiful books, Tori Hayden, on autism, and I actually really wanted to be a special needs teacher. And then when the financial crash happened, I was like, well, teachers don't get paid for what they do.
They still don't.
They still don't, exactly. Definitely something that needs changing in the world. But I remember having one moment. My parents weren't able to give me pocket money or clothing allowances, which all my friends were getting. And I remember, I think I was actually on my way to Bella Napoli in Hillbrow. I remember I was wearing all black. And I remember having this very, this a moment of epiphany, going, well, stuff you can't afford to look after me financially. I don't need you. And my parents then weren't really my wise people. And I'd actually also met my first husband when I was 13. So I emotionally transferred. So for me, it gave me my independence, which is, what has given me the drive now, is just like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do it myself. So it gave me that sort of innate confidence, which I still carry today. When we first chatted, before we started recording, and you said we were talking about strategy, I've never put together like when I decided we were going to start Kayak Africa, we didn't really put a business plan together. Oh, this is a good idea. Let's go stand an uninhabited island. Or when I had my drumming project, oh, let's have 20,000 kids in the stadium together. Or let's sell salt. Okay, nice idea. Let's go. So I've been, I have a concept or an idea or a bit of a vision, and it consumes me. And for some reason, I seem to think rather large.
Yeah.
And so with the salt as well, okay, well, let's create the next global global household brand of salt. But the quality of the salt, deems that it needs to get out to the world. So it doesn't feel like it's only mine. It's kind of like this collaboration.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. I really like that. I think there's something that I always talk about when I work with businesses or people. And it's like we were talking about retrospect earlier as well. It's like doing things in retrospect, and reflecting is a massive part of the way I run strategy sessions, and the way if I'm helping somebody to figure out where they're going, it's like reflecting back and then going, but what did you actually do? Like, what did you do this, or why did you do that? And when I listen to you, I can sense or feel that you have this sort of energy that latches onto a project, and that's the energy that you follow. Like going, whether it's the kayaking or the drums or the salt, it's like, this is the thing that needs to be born in the world right now, and like, come hell or high water, I will make this. I will make this happen. Like, there's nobody is going to stand in my way. Yeah, this sounds like fun, right? And that's really interesting. Like, and so I mean, who was it? Like, was it Dale Carnegie or his dad or something that said people rarely succeed unless they have fun doing it? And would you say you're having fun?
Absolutely. I mean, I think I'm so glad I didn't have a glass ball, or a crystal ball
A
to
crystal ball,
see.
yeah.
I didn't think it would take this long. And there was a beautiful moment a few years ago where, I think maybe 4 years ago, like, still like, what Grant Rushmere actually says, building a brand and building a business is like pushing a peanut up a hill with your nose, which is also quite apt.
I love that.
So I didn't realize it was going to be such hard work. I mean, I
Mm,
really am. I could possibly say that I'm addicted to working, but I love it. I mean, I am deeply passionate about it. But then something shifted where I kind of I think I feel like I got out of survival mode, and now I feel like I'm having more fun. Like we've got up, like it's. I think also for so many years I had to go do the selling to restaurants, and now at least a few times a week. Hi, we're opening a coffee shop. Oh, we're opening a restaurant. We'd love Oryx. Yes, you know. So it feels like I've created its own momentum. I mean, it still
mm.
needs a lot of drive and a lot of intention. Intention is one of my very big pillars for business.
Okay, tell me more about that intention. What unpack that? What do you mean when you say that?
So I guess so. The intention is, I mean, the quality of the salt is so profound and exquisite, especially because we have a sad situation where the oceans are so highly polluted. So sea salt that comes from the oceans is not the quality that it used to be. And Oryx comes from this beautiful underground salt lake in the middle of the Kalahari Desert. So it really is untouched and pure, and literally lies underneath the stars and the moon and the desert sun and the wind, and we bottle it.
Mm,
And so, as my learning of salt has grown, and over the last few years, we've really dived very deeply into the importance of salt for, your brain cognition, for digestion, for kidney health, for breastfeeding, for pregnancy. Fascinating. Your blood volume increases by 40% when you're pregnant, and women's taste buds for salt usually diminish or minimize because they need a whole lot more salt, and we can't function without salt.
yeah.
And now I'm getting the science behind it. So as I learn, I just become more passionate, and it really is just such a beautiful product that for me, it's a really easy sell, and I really I love switching people onto Oryx. I love getting people hooked. So intention. So I guess the best example of this is in COVID, we lost about 60% of sales because no tourism and no hospitality.
Mm.
And Whole Foods in America had come across my path at a couple of international trade shows. And it was sort of 9 years when COVID hit. And I was like, there's no ways I'm letting 9 years of my life and the hard work that I put in go down the tubes. And so I was very blessed. I was kind of stuck on a farm during COVID. So I had a lot of space and I wasn't going into the warehouse. I had perspective. And there is that entrepreneurial saying, work on your business, not in your business. And that's what it gave me the opportunity to do. And so on the farm, like looking back and going, okay, so not only do I want to get us out of this hole, but what am I going to do in order to scale Oryx at the same time? And I was like, I want Whole Foods. And I'd managed to network the previous year at a trade show in the US, in LA. And so I just started emailing the buyer, but I did it with such clarity and such pinpointed focus, knowing that yes, this was a national organic supermarket, Oryx belonged on the shelf, and this was going to change the course of our, the course of Oryx Desert Salt. And lo and behold, sort of 6 weeks after, I'd emailed a few times, and each time it was very much around, how do I feel, and just really being very, very mindful and present and intentional, kind of giving the vision attention. And then I got a mail back from the buyer saying, I apologize for my delay in getting back to you. And I'm like, curious, buyers don't apologize. Anyway, he happened to be the most beautiful, humble, switched on buyer and ended up giving us a national listing. So we took still another like 18 months or so to land on shelf, but that definitely changed. So we lost 60% and then we grew 120 the following year.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I just love that so much, and it's one of the things I think that's why we resonate as well. So one of the things that I try to do when we're working with businesses is it's teaching them that going follow intention. Like there's more to it than a spreadsheet. Like we run strat sessions, we're like, where are the spreadsheets? I was like, we're not doing spreadsheets. That's not how this works. Like we're talking about feeling and emotion and intention, and like that pushes you forward, and like that this little thing that you're trying to find and like hacking away through the fog. I mean, that's sort of the idea. But I love that. It's really interesting to me. Like you were talking now. I mean, for me, what I always notice in myself as well is like what we wanted to be when we grew up really plays out in our lives like so much. And when you mentioned like this idea of teacher and autism and special needs, and then circling going all the way forward to salt and brain cognition and all these other things, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see the dots sort of connecting. I don't know if you've noticed. I'm sure you've noticed that, but like I can see the dots connecting back there. So I mean, why does salt have such a bad rap? Like we always see like have less salt, have less salt, have less salt. Like, why does it have such a bad rap then if it's so good for you?
So I think two things. One is that table salt should be legal. It's not a food grade. They call it food grade. It's not food grade. It's actually industrial salt. It's been highly processed. It's been demineralized. It's got anti-caking and free flow chemicals so that it can flow. So actually PVC, C stands for chloride. So it goes into paint, textiles, paper. It's a binding agent. So they needed it in huge volumes, and they didn't want it to clump. So then some, ignoramus put it into a bottle and called it table salt. But table salt is bad for you. So they were right about that, actually. But then there's a brilliant cardiac researcher, Dr. James DiNicolantonio, and he's written a book called The Salt Fix, Why Eating More Salt Can Save Your Life. And he coined the wrong white crystal got the bad rap. So actually sugar is creating havoc in our health and in our systems. Salt, probably everyone is not eating enough salt. If you think in the olden days, we would dry out our meats, we would preserve our fish, our meats and everything with salt. We would pickle our vegetables in salt. And now, we have a lot of refined processed salt if we're eating store-bought foods and products. But then actually most of the food on the supermarket shelf is kind of are chemicals. They're not actually really food either. So salt is really third most important after oxygen and water. And we cannot thrive without it. If you think, so we're electromagnetic beings, right? We know we're energy, and salt is a conductor. So our bodies really need our brain, the little synapses, so we're not 70% water, we're 70% saline solution. And so that, in fact, there's another beautiful quote, we are living oceans, inside and outside our cells. And that needs and is in a similar proportion, our blood, our intercellular fluid, as salt. Khalil Gibran said, salt is sacred. It's in our tears, it's in our blood, it's in our sweat, it's in our urine. So we need to replace it with a beautiful quality. And, Oryx, even from a homeopathic perspective, it comes from the desert. It doesn't come into contact with humans. I mean, in fact, there's further research on how water has memory. It imprints with what's around it. There's a beautiful scientist, Dr. Maseri Immortal, and he did tests on bottles of water with beautiful words and then with negative words. And all the negative words, when he froze the water and took macro photography, they were all distorted. And whereas the words, the water that had love and trust and faith and joy, the water, when he took photograph of it, had this beautiful crystalline structure like a snowflake. So his message was, your thoughts are changing the structure of your body. And there's just beautiful things that are coming out now. And so Oryx has moisture still. We sun dry the salt, we don't oven dry it. And so it actually is imprinted with the magic and the beauty and the space of the Kalahari Desert and the elements. Where sea salt, that's had lots of sewage dumped into it, and the plastic and industrial chemical pollution and pharmaceutical contamination from all of the pharmaceuticals that we're all taking. So you are so spot on. Take a little Oryx salt wherever you go. I don't put sea salt on my food.
And then it's in a plastic grinder. Like, that's my worst. You get to a restaurant and then the grinders are plastic. I'm like, I'm literally grinding. Yeah. I'm like grinding plastic into my food. I don't want that. And I know you've got a different grinder. You've got one there.
Yes. So so the central part is ceramic. So I've got a couple of colleagues who've had their grinders in their kitchen for 7 years, the same grinder head. So it doesn't grind plastic. And it saves you money because you just keep refilling. And in fact, last year we saved more or less 817,000 bottles and heads from landfill.
Oh my word!
Or need to be recycled. So it's actually really making a difference.
Sure, that's fantastic. Yeah, everybody should get onto it. So we spoke about earlier when you were telling your story, your very elaborate and long story. You spoke about the food with a spiritual quality. And we were talking now a little bit about humans are. I love that. Like, humans are oceans. That needs to be on a T-shirt. Like, that's such a good thing. Dig into that. I mean, as I said earlier, like I'm often call myself a preacher by night. So my other life outside of business is in systematic theology. So I'm really interested in spirituality and all of that. So tell me about that. What did you find? What were you looking for? And then when you found it, you went, this is it. This is what I want.
So, well, I mean, I think you'd know. I think salt is in the Bible 49 times. You are worth your, weight in salt.
Yeah.
There are many quotes. I actually don't have them top of mind. But, salt is a covenant. Salt is an agreement. So, in the ancient times, salt had so much value. So salary is even, they were paid in salt. And almost every culture and religion has salt in some form. On Shabbos, you sprinkle the salt over the bread.
Mm.
And in other traditions, you can put salt into the corners of your home if you're wanting to, clear the space, or you can have a salt bath in order to sort of, cleanse your aura, or, release any negativity. The little devil on your shoulder, throw
Yeah,
the salt
check
over
some
your shoulder.
salt.
So, it is so steeped in mythology. And I think it's because it is just, such an essential part of our life and our existence. We cannot function, we can't survive without it. In fact, it was even a Chinese torture at some point where they wouldn't give their victims salt. And after some weeks, they actually can't function properly. You can't pick anything up. You've got no energy at all. So I think it just, it gives, and there's a tradition of giving salt when you move into a new home. In Danish, you always need to have salt for your egg. So it is really such a beautiful product to work with, because it has so much depth, and it has got, such magic around it.
I want to take a short moment to tell you about The Quest. The Quest is a transformative experience of self-inquiry that I run along with my friend Simon in the mountains in Franschhoek. It basically consists of a retreat, at the center of which lies a solo, where you spend time alone in solitude on the mountain, out in the open with only the basic necessities, whilst fasting. That means only drinking water. The entire process is designed to help you work through questions that you have. Questions like, what am I supposed to do next? Why am I here? Why am I making this decision? Why do I need to leave this behind? What do I need to leave behind? Or what do I have to pick up to move forward? It's a process that really digs deep into your motivations and helps you chart a way forward. If you are interested in joining this process, we are running the next one in October, and it is a 4-day in total quest. So 2 days of preparation, one 24-hour solo, and then a day of integration. And if you're interested in this, please go onto my website, thisispierre.co/quest, and fill in your details there. And I will invite you to a info session or have a meeting with you to discuss about why you want to go on this and whether or not this is a good fit for you. This has been one of the most transformative experiences of my life. I did my first one, a 12-day quest with a 4-day solo, about 8 years ago, and have facilitated many, many, many since. And I'm always amazed about how much this process transforms a human being. I would love to have you become a part of that circle. If this resonates with you, please reach out via my website. Well, that's fantastic. I was thinking there's a Xhosa saying, I think it is Xhosa. Forgive me if it's not. But I want to put salt on you. I think one of my wife's friends, Lindy, where she told her, I love you so much, Ria. My wife's name's Ria, and then she's like, I want to put salt on you. I mean, I want to keep you. So that's the expression, and I love that. I love that so much because it's such a massive part of our lives. Yeah. That's really amazing. Tell me about where was I mean, there's like you mentioned lucid dreaming. There was like a lucid dreaming thing that you spoke about earlier, and then about doing a community upliftment. Does this link to the salt story in a way, or is it like a separate story? But I lucid dream all the time, and I think it's from years of meditating. I've sort of read the other day that people who meditate a lot tend to have a lot of lucid dreams. But yeah, tell me more about that. What does that happen?
Yeah, I don't think I ever. That is the most profound one that I had, and it was very interesting because I was part of two corporate companies doing a community project in Orange Farm Township, and for many reasons it wasn't successful, and so it was a real fast track learning in how not to do community service.
Okay.
And I'd given 6 months, dedicated 6 months of my time. I was doing food gardens, and I'd taken kombucha into this beautiful group of women who were volunteering to support AIDS patients. anyways, and then something happened and the relationship turned. Actually, I was getting paid, and so I ended up getting this woman's wrath on me, and she was a very large, beautiful woman who, when she was angry, was not a pretty sight, and I was the end of her anger. And anyway, after a particular meeting where she just really just grilled me and shred me to pieces, I left there in a lot of sort of kind of real prayer, like, wow, okay, this hasn't worked. How do we really make a difference in communities? How do we really heal that systemic trauma? And I was actually at the end of a 2-week vegetable juice fast. So I think it was just that moment in time. And I feel like I'm having a lot of that at the moment, where it just feels the serendipity is happening many times a day, where I feel like it's like love letters from the universe, or love letters from God, that just kind of little something, even if it's words on a song. Oh, thank you, you know. And yeah, and so that night was a night of just dreaming and seeing the effect on the children when they were exposed to drumming. And so the caption for my project, it was called 20,000 Drums, because I had the vision of having 20,000 kids in a stadium, and the caption was transformation through celebration. Was this sheer joy. And we ended up going to very rural townships and communities like Bushbuck Ridge, you know, and way gone north, and where a lot of the kids had lost their parents to HIV/AIDS, and for them to have that heart coherence moment of 500 or 1,000 children all in sync, drumming one beat, one heartbeat, was quite profound to witness. In fact, I ended up doing another project with a friend where we actually took in yoga, because I realized it was quite cruel to leave these kids on this absolute high, and cruel to the teachers, really, because the kids were just off God's life, you know. And so we ended up just bringing that beautiful exuberance and joy, and bringing it back into themselves, and just finding still and peace and quiet. And that was called Beats and Breathing for Healing. But we really struggled to get the funding, so we did sort of 3 or 4 projects, I think, and then ended up disbanding.
Wow, that's what a journey though, and it seems like a theme in your life. If your life had a theme song, what would it be?
A theme song.
Yeah.
I don't know, make a difference. Yeah, because it feels now, you know, I said that something shifted in Oryx for me, and my team have become such a huge part of my why with Oryx. I mean, I think actually today, I think they're going to be 47 people in the warehouse. Last week was 37, and I got a new contract in the USA, and it's really cool contract, actually. It's JetBlue Airlines, so it's a little leaflet, and it's got our story, and it's got a sachet, and then there's a QR code,
Fantastic.
bio, support Project Bio, a little infographic on the back. So 1.6 million people get this, but this sachet has to get a glue dot and has to be put into these. So 210,000 or 250,000 we have to get out to the USA every month. So we've got an extra 10 people this week who are just
extra 10
helping.
people. You look at extra 1,000 people.
Extra 10. Yeah, totally. Which means, so I went to Alon Reers's talk at the Tryst.
Oh, I missed that. Yeah, I saw that he was here. Yeah.
Thursdays ago, and that was around strategy. Yeah, and I think what came out of it was, that the whole team needs to be aligned. Anyway, so I had this plan, and on Wednesday mornings I read a chapter from Robin Sharma's book. His latest book is Wealth Money Can't Buy, and it's so powerful, because there are so many things that we can do to support our systems, our breathing, proper good quality breathing, is free, and yet it can change our lives completely. And taking the family out to a picnic with grass and trees, so just sharing with them the things that don't cost money, and in fact Robin Sharma says that wealth and money is only 1 out of 8 wells. And there's so many different ways to empower ourselves and have a rich fulfilled life without necessarily having money. So anyway, so I asked my team on Wednesday, how many people do they feed? And one of the women said that she feeds 16 people on her salary.
Yo,
So
16.
16.
Sure.
So, to know that another 10 people in the warehouse, are that ripple effect. And I also know that, the work that we're doing with Robin Sharma, and we do breathwork every Wednesday. And I shared earlier with you around this beautiful parenting course with Love and Logic, and they did the parenting course last year for 3 months, and they've done a self-defense course this year, so that they can feel safe in when they walk home, especially now in winter. Although we change our times, we actually start half an hour late if they're not walking in the dark. But what I did from Alan's strategy session was everyone got a piece of paper. I folded it into 3. And on the top third, they had to all write down what they thought my vision and dream was for Oryx.
Oh, yeah?
And then in the second half, I asked them to write what their vision and their dream is for Oryx Salt. And then in the third half, they have to write what their vision and dream is for their own personal lives. And I was very excited to see that I've obviously shared my mission and my vision with them, because they all got it quite spot on. And then quite a lot of them used some of that for their own vision for Oryx. But what was quite devastating, actually, and disturbing, is that most of them were not able to vision and dream their own personal lives, for their own personal lives to change. So they had homework this week, and tomorrow when I go in, they have to write a whole page of what their dream is for their life. And a couple of years ago, I did vision boards, which I think I'm going to need to do again, because I think pictures are a little bit easier than sometimes, finding the words. And one of my team, the most beautiful sort of vision board, dream board. And when I asked her about it, she said, no one has ever given me permission to dream my life differently.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. So that's my next exciting project. I want to do vision boards again. And I really feel that if they can envision their lives to be different, then it becomes this beautiful infinity loop. They help Oryx become successful. Oryx help them become successful and change their lives. And I have watched that. My beautiful warehouse manager arrived. And yeah, so he's now driving a little Suzuki. I planted the seed for him to buy his own home and move out of Ottery, which is a bit of a war zone. And I've watched him upgrade. He managed to get himself off diabetes. He reversed diabetes with support with a diabetic doctor. And so yeah, I love growing. I love, I love making a difference in my own life, and I want to be able to share that and inspire my team to do the same.
Wow, that is, Samantha, you were just like making my heart sing. I almost started crying now when you were talking about not having permission to dream. Sure, it's insane. There's it's so interesting on so many levels. There's so many things I want to ask you now, or like talk about. There's Jim Collins, the author that wrote Good to Great. I don't know if you know, it's like a well-known kind of business book. Yeah, so it's a good book. He became famous for Good to Great, about how good companies become great companies and what's the difference and all that. And then he recently wrote a new book called I think it's called Entrepreneurship 2.0 or something like that, B 2.0, and he's this guru on business about what makes great companies. And by the end of it, basically the thing about Entrepreneurship 2.0 is that the answer is people. It's like people. It's teams as people. And that's something that we try and drum so hard into businesses' heads that they, it doesn't matter what your strategy is. It doesn't matter even what your product is. It's like who is on the team is what matters the most. And then how you take care of your team is so vital and so important. And like just basic things as well. Like if somebody's feeding 16 people, they don't have time to dream. Like, what are you talking about? We need to have food on the table. Like, and there's a real, and seeing we're talking about brain cognition development and things earlier. There was a study which I love, which I think you might find interesting. Like the sugarcane farmers in India, they have a very unique sort of way of living, the way their money works. So they get about 80 to 90% of their income in one go in a year. So they are comparatively poor for the bulk of the year, and then in one go they are comparatively wealthy towards, in comparison to everybody around them. And then what this bunch of researchers did, they went and they wanted to figure out, does being poor or comparatively poor, does it affect your cognitive ability? Or does being rich affect your cognitive ability, and by how much, if so? So they did IQ tests for all of them. So IQ tests are obviously really old. It's been around for like more than a century. It's well trusted and all of that. And they found that when they were poor, their IQ was about 14 points less than when they were comparatively wealthy, which means that they were in a scarcity mentality. And then what happens in your mind is there's no space for long-term planning, no space for strategies. Everything becomes now. Like, what do I have to do now? Like, I have to survive now. There's no way that I can dream, because I can't dream now. I need to find food. I need to protect my kids. I need to like live in that sort of mindset. So, and then allowing your team, giving them the space, the resources as well, because they need that to be safe and, not live on the wrong crystal. They live on the right white crystal. And then that's so beautiful, because it really does change people's brains. Like, if they have enough, then they can dream. So I love that. I think it's just absolutely fantastic. If you were to like you it's like weird, like I really hate like hacks and tips and tricks, but if somebody listening and they're struggling with their team and they realize their team is not functioning well in their business, what should they do first?
If somebody in the team is not functioning well,
Yeah.
so I guess it's about getting personal, finding out where they're at. I actually last week I've got some in the team who I'm watching almost get sicker. There's always an issue, a health issue. Anyway, so this week I'm going to have a sit down with her. And when I chatted to her last week, she made some comment about waking up at 12 and 3 o'clock in the morning to pray. I was like, what? I was like, God doesn't want you to get sick. Your sleep is your number one important healing tool.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we need to have a discussion, because she can't function effectively. So there's I don't know, potentially some indoctrination there that's you're going to get to heaven sooner, or I'm not quite sure. I'm gonna have to explore it. But I really don't think waking up at twice during the night is what God would want. And I mean, for me, prayer is it's all the time. It's in everything. It's not necessarily a specific time. So yeah, and then of course there are sometimes people who just don't fit in, who can't take on the ethos and can't take on the culture, or can't shift their mindset or can't change their attitude. And so there've been a few people who fortunately have left, who were definitely, they were that bad apple, and I've had a dream and a vision and an intention. I really want a happy team. I want a team who really enjoy coming to work, who do support one another. That Oryx is a place of joy for them. They spend so much time there, and when there's somebody who comes in and whines and complains and what have you, then it really can shift the energy. In fact, I had a beautiful, it was 2 weeks ago. Shane, 4 people weren't able to come because of the shooting in some of the communities, the gang wars, and so they all came in actually quite traumatized. There was a mum and daughter had been killed the night before, innocent people, and actually with Robin Sharma's book, I just find it so apt, like those synchronous moments. It was all about upgrading your gratitude. And Robin Sharma really loves South Africa, and he spends at least a month there a year. Anyway, the story is all about him going into restaurants and asking somebody how they are, and he goes, "I'm very fine, sir." And he explored further why he was very fine and discovered that this gentleman lives in a zinc shack, which he then goes on to explain, because the book is international, and it was just so spot on, for finding the things to be grateful for. And then a friend of mine who's been training as a life coach, but she's really good with groups, and she's had her own warehouse, Yasmina Rahic. If anyone wants an incredible like energy coach, or like for their team,
Oh, awesome.
she's just brilliant with crowds, and she's had her own warehouse with 50 staff, and she's just got so much energy, and she's a performer, but she comes in and she does breath work and meditation and intention and stillness and communication and listening, and really, really, like important tools and skills to learn. Every time they have a big dance. Anyway, we decided she did 6 weeks with the team earlier in the year, and we decided we'd spoil the team, and she'd arrive and she'd pitch up as a surprise. And that absolutely every team member was just like jumped up, hugged her. She's a very special human. And so we had a couple of dances inside, and we went outside, and we had a couple of other dances, and then it was like, okay, let's get back to the workstations. But it was so incredible to watch how, from 45 minutes prior, when they first arrived, to then, they were just completely transformed, actually.
Yeah. Completely different people. There's an interesting tension, and you sort of touched on it. It's like some people just need to go, or you need to help them go sometimes, or you need to give them a friendly exit, or help them find something else that's more suitable to them. Or sometimes people are just just not right, or just bad apples, as you say. And there's a tension there that I often find in businesses, and often when we run strat sessions, we talk about values and things. And often in a business, one of the values is family. And then I always cringe, and I'm like, I don't think a business is a family. I'd love to hear what you think, because families have that weird, like, drunk uncle that you sort of tolerate, and he's like racist and terrible, but he's there every Christmas still. And you can't have that in business, right? You still need to win. Like, you still need to actually get the product out. You still need to do it. And then there's this tension, because now, and it seems to me, and I don't know, you've got more international experience than I do, but it seems to me that there's a shift in the business world where there was this very strong focus on family, and now people realized, well, now we're sitting with a bunch of bad apples and we can't fire them because you can't fire family. And there's this backlash to where some businesses are now going, this is very transactional. You come here, it's a job, you take your money and you go. There's like no sort of caring. So there's this whole thing that's swinging, and it always feels to me like South Africa is maybe a couple of years behind where some of the international US trends are. And we're very much on the family side. And then people are going, okay, but this is maybe not the best thing to do. So I don't know. So, and also, so founders, to add to this conversation, founders are almost expected to be pastors. Like, they have to take care of like your emotional needs, psychological needs, like your diets, like your kids, like everything. Just stopping short of officiating marriage ceremonies and funerals. Like, that's sort of maybe the limit. But founders and CEOs and people don't know how to do that. And sometimes I wonder if it's unfair to expect that of a founder, of a CEO. So I don't know. Thoughts on that tension between business as a family and we still need to win?
So interestingly, I have a group, and it was originally called the Oryx Family. And a year ago, I think I read somewhere exactly to your point. Family means you do just accept, and you can't let people go. So I changed it. So it's now called the Oryx, going for A+ team. double exclamation mark. And I spoke to it, and I said, guys, I'm changing the name of this group. Like, I want us to be the A+ team. And if you want to be here, you want to be part of the A+ team too, because I want us all to win. And if you're not part of that, then it doesn't feel like you fit into what our mission and our vision is. And yeah, I mean, there was one particular person that has left in the meantime, and she, yeah, and maybe it was because of that. So I did a life coaching course many years ago now, sure, probably 2018 or 2019. Oh, actually, yes, because we ended up going online at some point because of COVID, which definitely I wasn't able to do it. The in-person was amazing, and it was literally to be able to have some more skills to be able to provide some life coaching to the team. And so yeah, I mean, it feels like Oryx has become, it's not only a job, for me it's a lifestyle now. It's certainly my own sustenance, for life, not only financially, but just my, it really does feel like my soul's purpose. And I've had really beautiful affirmation and confirmation of that. One of which I have to share with you. When I went up 2 years ago to Salt Pan to go do a mini documentary, and we were only there 48 hours. And on the second afternoon, we'd driven 19 hours. We'd been up pre-dawn. We were exhausted by the second afternoon. And I was like, you know what? Even though we had a whole photo shoot planned in the Boma with barbecue salt and our apron and the whole braai vibe, I was like, you know what? Let's cancel. Let's drink gin and tonic, and let's put some music on, and let's have fun. And it was a beautiful just a lesson in, it doesn't always need to be so driven, that actually time back and space is just as important as the drive. And anyway, last thing I managed to get was a jackery with a solar panel for power, and we didn't have electricity for 3 days, so thank God goodness I did. And we realized the light had changed. Anyways, we were gifted a Kalahari thunderstorm of the most epic proportions, quadraphonic lightning and thunder, and 20 minutes it just downpoured. The house flooded because it wasn't used to so much water. And went outside, and the colors were sublime, and there were 2 rainbows. I couldn't see them actually on the salt pan, but they were in the direction. The salt pans were behind where our chalet was, and there were 2 double rainbows. So there've been lots of these beautiful moments along the way. So yeah, so I guess when it becomes more than just a job, then when you put your whole self in, and the team becomes, I cannot do it without the team. My success is so intrinsically linked to their success and to their well-being. So I think it's got to be holistic. It's got to be all and everything.
All and everything. How many people are on your team now?
Yeah, so today apparently 47, and that excludes about five salespeople, and then other people who aren't actually on payroll but are still kind of part of the team. So it's at least it's over 50.
Oh, that's quite a bit. That's quite a bit. I wanted to, who has given you the best advice, that changed your life? Sure. What was that?
So maybe my boyfriend at 15.
That's a really interesting one. Yeah.
Well, he said, if you can find a product that every single person uses every single day of their life, or if you can find a product that people use every single day of their life. So when the salt came along, it was like, right. When I told my mom, she was like, oh my God, Sam, it took me a whole year to get through one thing of salt. So so that kind of really, okay, well, maybe this is it, so, and I find often those moments of like epiphany, or something that lands so strongly in one's whole being, where it's not just an idea, it's it lands in your heart, it lands in your body. So anyone else? Yeah, I got my one partner mentioned he had read the autobiography of the CEO of Nike.
Oh yeah.
And apparently he said that it takes 10 years to, kind of, I think it was 10 years to get into the USA. You've got to know exactly what it is that you want. And you've got to hold that vision. And in fact, we actually got our Whole Foods listing pretty much on the 10th anniversary of Oryx. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, and then actually, I'm going to just add one more in. I did a beautiful course with Sudar, and it was all around corporate governance, and sort of learned that managerial hat, the director hat, and the shareholders hat. Managerial is a bit of a peak hat, and director maybe something a little bit more formal, and then shareholders, one can each have their own idea of what that looks like for them. And Ron Mule did a talk, and he said, if you want to climb Everest, you've got to know that you want to get to the top. If you don't
Yeah.
know that is your, like, you want to peak and you want to get to the very top, you're not going to gather the skills and the tools and the equipment and everything that you need to get to the top, or do the training that you need. So I think that was a really brilliant metaphor for whatever it is that you're creating in your life. One is, I guess, dream, like really, like expand the dream. Use your imagination. How incredible. How is the most amazing, beautiful, successful business project, whatever it is that you do, how successful could it be? And I think when we dream into that, then we start gathering what we need in order to make that happen. But if we don't have that dream or that vision to start with, or that intention, then you're just bumbling along. If you don't know what you want implicitly, explicitly, how can God gift it to you? Because if you don't know what you want, well, God
Yeah.
give you what you don't know what
Yeah.
it is, or
Yeah.
if you haven't put it
Yeah.
out there,
I love that. I often I have so many of these conversations where people are like, I'm waiting for God to tell me what I should do, what I should do, what I should do. And then my question is like, what do you want to do? And then I tell them, I think you're stuck in a loop of, I don't know, what do you want to do? It's like that where
yeah.
you and your partner want to go out for dinner and you go, I don't know, what do you want to do? I don't know, what do you want to do? And I think we get stuck in a loop for those people that are spiritual or religious, whatever. Like we get stuck in that
Mm.
loop with God or with the universe because we keep on saying to God, what do you want to do? And then God goes, I don't know, what do you want to do? And then he goes, I don't know, what do you want to do? And it's like, just say what you want to do. Like, just what do you want? Like, what do you want? And that's the ultimate question, right? Is like, how do you
Mhm.
know? How do you know, Samantha? How do you know what you want? How do you figure that
Sure.
out?
Yeah, that's, I think I feel really blessed that I've had several things that I really want to do, and I've followed them. So I think I'm probably on my third one now. Kayak Africa was the first, and then the drumming was the second, and Oryx Salt is the third. I guess what makes you excited, what lets you dream,
Mm,
where there's passion, where there's it's not just, it doesn't feel like a chore, where it feels like
yeah,
um, it's just something that calls your heart, really. Your heart's got to be in
yeah,
it. It can't
yeah,
just be a mind.
yeah. No, that's true. That's really true, and I agree with you. And I always struggle with this because sometimes there are things in life that are really hard and difficult, but also really good for you. And often I
Mm,
find when I speak to younger people, they're all about following your passion, following your passion. And what they mean is that it's easy or it's
yeah.
fun or it's always like this joyful, like you're this joyful, happy person
Yeah.
all the time. And I was like, it's
Always
not
in
that.
rose. No. Mm.
Yeah, it's not that. So what has been really hard for you in life, but that has been really good and part of your calling and purpose in a way?
Um, so, yeah, I've been in a relationship that was highly dysfunctional. and physically dysfunctional, mentally, emotionally dysfunctional, all levels. So that was incredibly hard. I think just because I really felt like I lost myself. And I had a moment actually where it was the final moment before I left with a note on the table and a potential kidnapping charge over my head, where I was like, oh, I wonder if I haven't loved him enough. And there was definitely my higher self, my soul, God, there was a very loud voice. You don't, because I'd already made a decision to leave. If you do not leave, I will never trust you again. And it was so loud and so like, okay, I get that. I heard that because I had made the commitment to leave. And what I realized, in life, that if you haven't had the experience, you cannot empathize. You can feel compassion and you can try and empathize. But if you haven't been in that place, it is so unbelievably terrifying. You cannot empathize with other people, and there are some really horrendous stats about how many women, are in relationships that aren't safe, or have been in relationships that aren't safe, and I guess so with joy, that life, you've got to feel that depth in order to feel, it's a bit like a heartbeat. It's got to go down to go up. So yeah, I guess that's been part of forming who I am today, and I guess wanting to make a difference. And there's a metaphor I've been using quite a lot lately, is that a diamond is formed from a random block of coal that's under a whole lot of pressure, and what comes out is this magnificent diamond, that is, when it's polished, it's shiny and it's got so many different facets. And we come here to grow, we come here to learn, we come here to experience, and I think those terrifying, hardest experiences, they grow us and they make us who we are, and they form us and they mold us, and we shine beyond them. So to even I've recently had been able to find the joy in the hard, like, oh my God, this is terrifying, but okay, I'm learning. Right. I'm looking forward to a year in the future, but so just being able to find the gratitude in the moments that are not so pretty, because we come through them, and generally, hopefully, if our attitude is right, we're better for them.
That's very true. That's very true. Thank you for sharing that. What do people completely misunderstand about you?
That a huge part of me is an introvert.
Really? I would never have guessed that.
Yeah, spend a lot of time quiet, alone. Sometimes crowds can terrify me. And yeah, I guess there's a balance. So what they misunderstand about me, yeah, I think sometimes, yeah, and sometimes that performing side of me, which I've actually only discovered over the last 2 years. Yeah, that there's that side. Well, I guess there's so many different sides, aren't there? And sometimes people only see one facet, and yet there's so many others.
That's true. I think people perceive us in a very specific way, and they don't necessarily see all of it, and that's where we get sort of misunderstood or mislabeled sometimes even.
Yes.
You were talking a lot about like 10 years, and it took 10 years and to get into the US, and all this hard work. How much of it do you think is hard work, and how much do you think in business is luck?
I think you make your luck. You show up, you work hard, you know where you're going, you do good. And I think, Providence meets us along the way. Providence
Mm.
supports what we're doing. I'm certainly not doing this alone. This is not only my doing. So, call it luck, call it providence, call it magic, call it divine support.
Mm.
If you are doing the work, so I think a little bit to the millennials, who, yeah, if you're showing up to your passion, it isn't always going to be easy, but it requires hard work. I mean, at some point, I'm looking forward to, turning down the dial and lifting my foot off the accelerator, and creating more space. But yeah, I'm still loving what I'm doing. So, does that?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, I think it's true. Like, I think there's a balance in there. I was speaking to a friend of one of my mentors who was which I'm trying to convince to come on the podcast. He was one of the founders of Ep5, and he says the longer you've managed to survive in business, the luckier you'll get. That if you can just keep on going, if you could just keep on going and you just remain in the line of sight or in the line of fire, so
Yeah,
to speak, then
pretty much.
eventually something is going to hit you. And then eventually you're going to get lucky. But the trick is just to stay in the
Exactly.
game as much as possible.
Exactly that. Spot
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. No, he's fantastic. What lies ahead? What lies ahead for Samantha and for Oryx? Maybe those are two different questions.
Um, yeah, well, yeah, yes, and um, so yeah, I think I've just got this vision for Oryx to become global. Still a lot of hard work to make that happen. And yeah, and my mantra or my intention or my resolution for this year was more not work-life balance, but more life-work balance.
Life work balance. I like that.
So yeah, so I've booked 10 days in Mozambique in July and 2 weeks in Portugal to walk the Camino. I would love to, I really want to walk more. I want to be able to switch off
Mm,
my phone. If I could walk a week in a month. So that's my ultimate dream and goal, is that, things are moving so swiftly that I can take a week off and I
yeah.
can go walk into the mountains and switch my phone off, and have proper connection in nature. And just yeah, life is so busy, and these computers and phones and that our to-do lists can consume us, and taking that time out is so intrinsic to our well-being. I
Yeah.
mean, staying connected as humans, so yeah, so for Oryx to get to that place where I really feel like I can take that week out, and I know that will just fuel more of what I do in the 3 weeks,
Yeah. That's
and I
yeah, I mean, two things stand out for me. The Camino is really interesting because it feels like it's such a it's experienced such a revival in the last kind of 10, 20 years. And people are really drawn to that, and to walking the Camino specifically. So for people who don't know, maybe there's people that don't know, the Santiago de Camino is it's a very old pilgrimage route that runs from really originally from France to Santiago, and but now from really all over Europe. And then you walk it, and by the end of it, you end up in the cathedral, and you get a little certificate that says your sins are forgiven and you're now going to heaven. But that's not. I mean, it was the point in back in the day, but and there's all sorts of interesting stories. But now it's really become this sort of worldwide spiritual practice or pilgrimage for people to do, to go and walk the Camino. And one of the other things I wanted to touch on was this like work life balance, and I've
like
heard
work,
recently
you know,
life work,
yeah,
yeah,
life
life work, yeah, life work, and I've heard recently people talk about work life or life work fit and not balance, and I thought that was really interesting. Like,
ah,
how do you find harmony? Balance always means making one thing more, another thing less. Like, and but then how do you find? This is just something I'm thinking at the moment, so I don't have an answer for
mm.
it. But like, how do you find harmony in those things rather than trying to make, because balancing is difficult for me. Like, how do
Yeah.
you make things like sing together? And especially for founders, like, how do you, one of my friends, they do valuations for businesses, and they have this, the first step is a simple form that you fill out. And the most important question in that form is, how long can you take a holiday as a founder? And that determines the value of your business. Almost it's probably the most
Wow.
important thing. In the, like, can you go away for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, up to 3 months, 6 months? How long can you leave the business and nothing will, catch fire or, like, burn down? And that's a really, it's hard for most people. How do you find that journey? Do you find it easy to kind of hand over, or are you still very much like in it, or are you trying to be more on
No,
it? Or
both actually. A couple of years ago, I took 6 weeks off.
mm, good for you.
Yeah, I went and did a panchakarma detox in India, and a couple of extra weeks. So yeah, I could definitely take a month or 6 weeks or even 2 months. I would say my team are strong,
Yeah.
and it runs itself. In fact, I actually only go into the office 1 day a week,
Oh,
on a
fantastic.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at
Otherwise,
you.
I'm
Well
in.
done.
Yeah. um, yeah. So yeah, I don't feel like I need to control it all at all. In
Yeah.
fact, God, I don't want to do it all. I want other people
Yeah.
to take control and do what they do best. I often say, I want geniuses in each of the seat, so
Yeah.
that you do what you do well and I do what I do well, and then we all do it well together.
Yeah. I
So
love
yeah,
that.
so that's my intention.
I know that there are many people listening, like founders, going, how in the world do you manage that? Like, how do you get out of it? Like, how do you lift yourself up so you only go in 1 day a week? And you, like, because I know many of my clients, and they're on big businesses, like a couple of 100 million rand businesses, and they are in it every single day, 10 to 12 hours, and on the weekend, they cannot untangle themselves. What are you doing differently that they should start doing?
I mean, I still work 12 hours or 14 hours a day. So, but I mean, a lot of my days are in meetings and podcasts and various other, and then I sort of catch up on emails later. So I guess it is just growing the team to do, each person to have their role. And I guess that's what I shared about the hats, the manager, director, shareholder, is that entrepreneurs really need to be working on their business, because if you're not working on it, you're just going to keep looping around and kind of staying in the same place, and you've got to step back and get perspective. And so yeah, that is really, really important. And I think I love that part. I think that's the part that excites me, is the growing and the expansion. And so I can't do that if I'm in the office, and overhear conversations, and then I get involved.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't go into the office. Yeah.
I love that.
So
That's really that's good advice. And it's hard. It takes humility to do that, because to step away and trust somebody else to run something, or to handle a part of the business, and not to be in it like all the time. Just the
but I
last
guess
couple of yeah.
hiring the right people, of
Mm,
course,
mm,
that's, if you don't have the right people, then no, you can't trust, and then you're going to burn yourselves out. And I
yeah.
think to that point, like really, like I think founders and entrepreneurs know quite quickly, and you've really got to listen to that, because otherwise you end up it's so hard having somebody come in and you train and you spend time, but you kind of know that they're not the right people, very, very early on, and we've got to learn to let go sooner, because it does create a whole lot more stress. And sometimes we definitely need to put, money towards the right caliber of people we want.
Yeah.
That's important too, but it's a juggle, I know.
No, that's a massive challenge, and and great people also can be expensive, and it's hard for founders sometimes. It can be tough. A last couple of questions just to round up. If let's say there's a terrible town somewhere in the world, and you walk into that supermarket there, and there's no Oryx salt yet, What should people buy when they can't find Oryx salt? How do you know something is good or something is not good for you? Should you go for that pink one or should you go for something else?
Yeah, I guess yes. I mean, definitely not table salt. Just if you've got table salt in your kitchen, put it underneath your kitchen sink and use it for wine stains. Just please don't put it. Don't. It's not worth. It's I don't know what the price is, but it's not worth your health.
Yeah.
Paying only 15 rand for a kilogram or 500 grams of salt. That really is just not feeding your body. Your body doesn't recognize it. It should only say salt. It shouldn't have salt and other chemicals. So then you're going to take a sea salt, you're going to take a Himalayan salt. And then I guess just, yeah, hopefully you say grace on your meal and say grace over your salt.
Your salt.
And then go look at some Oryx Desert Salt.
And then go and then tag Samantha on LinkedIn or Instagram and then go and like there's no Oryx salt in this town.
Oh, and please go to the manager and go, excuse me, why don't you have Oryx salt on your shelf?
That's really good. Yeah, that's really good. Everybody should do that. Any advice to kids? What advice do you give to kids? Give to your kid?
I'm not sure if my kid's taking so much of my advice, but I know he does. He does also, because he took himself off sugar over 18 months ago. So some of what I've been teaching him is landing. But we're in this incredible opportunity of learning. I mean, I used to I used to buy CDs on marketing and finance and sales, and I was always, which I'd listen to in the car. Now I listen to podcasts. And there is so many incredible people out there. This podcast, listen, just like stop doom scrolling, and feel how you feel. Once you've doom scrolled on Instagram and got lost down a Facebook rabbit hole for a while, like, do you feel energized? Do you feel full? Do you feel satisfied? I don't think so. The occasional, when I go down that rabbit hole, I end up feeling like I've just missed out on something. And you want to scroll just a thing that you might find. Because if you listen to, there's just so many incredible teachers. And yeah, take care of your health. Also,
Always.
Yeah,
that's good.
The best version of yourself.
You mentioned Robin Sharma's book. What is the title again?
Wealth Money Can't Buy.
Wealth Money Can't Buy. Okay. Any other book that changed your life? Was that the book that you would say, like, that's the book that changed my life? Wealth Money Can't Buy.
At the moment, I did a 5 a.m. club for quite a long time. That helped me through a phase until I got burnt out because I was waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning every morning.
I did that too. That's how I did my master's. Was like with 5 a.m. club. I nearly died.
I think whatever makes you feel inspired. So I think it's going to be different for each of us. I've written down your book that you mentioned. Podcasts are easier. One beautiful one was Michael A.J. Singer's written 2 books. They're not business books, but The Surrender Experiment and The Untethered Soul. And he did an experiment. He said yes to everything that God presented and what came his way. And he curated his curiosity, and that has helped me so many times when suddenly you get noticed to move home, and you're like, oh, I thought I was here for the next 5 years. Instead of going into fear, you're going to, oh, wow, that's curious. Wasn't expecting that. Right.
I like that.
Okay, what else is in store for me? So, yeah, but just find things that inspire you. Stay inspired. Keep learning. If you're not learning, you're kind of dying, really. And especially with how fast the world is changing at the moment, you gotta keep up.
Cool. I love that. Yeah, I'm a learner too. I love that, being curious. Last one. Favorite restaurant in all the world? This is more for me because I'm like a foodie, but like favorite place to eat.
Gosh, that's a tricky one. I'm gonna say Salt at Waterford Estate.
Salt at Waterford Estate. Yeah.
Just because Craig Cormack and Bo are just such 2 beautiful, humble, amazing chefs, brilliant chefs. I love Craig's specific passion for salt. When he does a salt and a wine and a food pairing, and the food's incredible, and the the venue is just spectacular.
Yeah.
So yes, if you haven't tried it, spoil yourself.
Salt at Waterford Estate. It's just outside of Stellenbosch, right? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
It's one of our favorite wine farms as well. I love it. Thank you so
Uh,
much, Samantha, for this
Thank
enlightening
you.
conversation and having
Amazing.
fun
Lovely.
with me today. Like, this was such a fun conversation. And I need to top up my Oryx actually. So I need to go and find some more salt. Thank you so much for being here. It's been great.
Yeah, been fabulous. Thank you so much for the invite, and thank you everyone for taking the time to listen.
Thank you for listening or watching, and thank you for being on this journey with me as we try and figure out and find our way through the fog of life and work. So, I've been writing a really short little daily letter that comes out each weekday, and literally very short. It's less than 50 words, and it is a burst of inspiration with some thoughts on strategy, how to find your way, how to become a better human being and do work that matters. You can go to thisispierre.co/daily letter to sign up and become a part of this community and hear about all the things that we get up to firsthand. Thank you for being a part.